obviously tells us that Unicorns of Love want to get Corki in the first rotation when they ban away the Cassiopeia from PowerOfEvil. Or it tells us that they don't feel like they have an answer to Cassiopeia at all, in case PowerOfEvil would pick it in his second rotation here. But that would be surprising. Things like Orianna would work just fine there.
Old school PoE champions, both of them, Cassio and Orianna. Rek'Sai banned out as well. Blue side has banned that out in every single game. Interesting trend there. Zach, Shen, maybe an Elise to round it out if you're inside of Unicorns of Love.
Yeah, because you don't ban Elise if you're Misfits. You actually leave it open and you trade. I think Misfits needs to ban Caitlyn. I don't want to see Unicorns of Love get a first pick Caitlyn. I still think Gragas might actually be a very valuable first pick, but obviously Thresh is another champion to consider. Unicorns should look at Elise right now and decide if they want to actually risk playing against it or not. And it seems like they are able or ready to actually play against it. The Varus, in my opinion, an underwhelming performance from Hansama last game on this champion. I don't agree with Caitlyn being left open. I think she is the strongest AD carry right now and a perfect fit for Samux.
Samux has an incredible track record of putting up great numbers with this. And here's the thing, Misfits can take a lot of power back if this is what's locked in. But, I mean, now you have an Ivern available, and we can look at Spring Unicorns of Love's basically signature composition coming online.
And what Caitlyn offers Unicorns is a strong laning phase, which is something you don't want to give to them. You want to be able to punish them in that part of the game. Now, Gragas is still one of my go-to picks here for Maxlore. We saw the difference, you know, from game 1 to game 2, how Maxlore was not really able to have an impact on the Graves. I think the Gragas is the key for him and Xerxe at the same time. So that is a must pick. I'm glad to see it. Support-wise, Braum obviously gone up in value right now that we see him actually being left open and Thresh already being banned.
Tahm Kench also incredibly valuable here. Xayah will be the lock-in for Hansama.
Xayah is not great against Caitlyn. Caitlyn's range is way too good.
I mean, is anything good against Caitlyn on this patch?
You can at least go something like Ashe, and you can actually do fine in the laning phase against her. Xayah struggles in this lane quite a bit, and she needs items to really be impactful. Ashe does not. So I think there was a missed opportunity in my mind, but Misfits might just go for the Xayah Rakan combo and try and camp the Caitlyn lane. That is an option.
Oh,
wait.
This is new. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Xerxe may be known for his unconventional jungle picks, but he is not known for the conventional ones. There is no Lee Sin, there is no Elise. We're gonna have to check his stats, see how many times he's actually played this champion, because this is very unconventional, definitely has not been played this split by him. Just had word from the stats team. Nard followed up as well.
This is the first time Xerxe has played Elise in the LCS. He joined last split. In spring, no Elise picks. Summer split, same deal.
Oh.
All right.
Okay, wait a second. This is... All right, Blitzcrank.
They're going to camp the Caitlyn lane. That is what they're looking to do. Because otherwise, this lane will get pushed on the tower and lose tower at like 8-9 minutes and just do nothing. So they will be playing around this bottom lane to try and punish the Caitlyn. Xerxe, though, on Elise, he can literally do exactly the same.
Okay, I look at this draft, and I see some potential. We see Gragas, great pick for Maxlore, no doubt. Xayah has some potential, maybe a little rough. Blitzcrank, good pick for IgNar.
That's what you see.
Yeah, and I see things that Misfits want. But I look at Unicorns of Love right now, and I don't see oddball picks. I don't see crazy strategies. I see raw power. Elise is banned in nearly every single one of our games. Xerxe gets his hands on it. Caitlyn, banned in every one of our games. Now Samux gets his hands on it. And Vizicsacsi on a Gnar. Not only is Gnar insanely strong on this patch, Vizicsacsi is a tried and true Gnar player. This is... I'm a little skeptical if Misfits are going to pull this one together because this composition from Unicorns of Love just looks so strong.
I definitely think Misfits are gambling a lot in this pick and ban phase. Gambles they didn't have to make. I don't think you need to like ban Shen as an example against Vizicsacsi at this point. He plays so many other top laners. Thresh as well. I'd rather give Thresh over and then pick a Tahm Kench or Braum against it than give Caitlyn over. But obviously Misfits clearly had a plan in mind. We just have to see if it was the correct plan or not, because Unicorns of Love, despite it being the first game Xerxe plays Elise, it's obviously a pick he's been practicing in scrims. And if he's actually able to play aggressive in the early game, we know he has good mechanics. He can pull it off.
And Unicorns of Love, normally the team that's about waiting till not waiting till late game, but getting to the mid game, spiking hard on those mid game team fights. Now they do have good mid game team fighting to a certain degree, but they have strong early game in the Caitlyn and the Elise. And
Braum is still open for Hylissang if he wants to play it against the Blitzcrank here. It was only Tahm Kench banned. This is a PowerOfEvil old school. But, I mean, you wouldn't blind pick it.
The crowd wants it.
You wouldn't blind pick it.
He might.
Oh. Boo.
Come on.
You can't go from
you don't have to listen to him,
awesome
audience.
stuff to standard. All right. Vladimir has been the go-to choice for Exileh against Syndra before, but also you can just pick Corki if you want to.
Also, Vladimir Gnar, very strong. Galio technically still available. Now, if we look back to Rift Rivals, EU did not have a great performance, but when Unicorns of Love wanted to crush people,
there's
Vlad and Gnar were the picks to do it.
Misfits.
I feel like they've given up pretty much power picks across the board. Vladimir definitely maybe not the case, but Gnar, Braum, Caitlyn, Elise all feel like insanely strong picks, whereas Blitzcrank feels pretty situational. Gragas very good, Xayah situational, Syndra very good, but there's still too many question marks.
So against the Gnar top lane, Alphari here does have the option to go for a carry. Against it, he does go with the Kennen, fallen out of favor after some of the changes to him, and also after teams in the West realized they can't actually play well with Kennen comps because it's so hard to use a pure split-pushing champion that brings nothing in terms of engaging and not a strong team fight. So kind of fell out of favor for multiple reasons, but he is a good pick against Gnar specifically. So Misfits here have been drafting strong mid lane, strong top lane. So solo laners, check, they are fine. Bot lane is where we have the questions. The fact that it banned LeBlanc against Exileh over the Braum, instead of just denying all the tanks here from Hylissang, is questionable to me. And of course, we also have to see what can Xerxe do on this Elise. Will he perform? If he goes towards mid lane, gets one kill against Syndra, then Vladimir just laughs at Syndra for the rest of the game. That is the thing about that matchup. Syndra will win it early game, but Vladimir will outscale.
And in the past, this has been a very bad matchup for Exileh. In his matchup against Fevivin, got too aggressive, looked for too many early kills, and gave up his life on multiple occasions. Now against PowerOfEvil, will it be the same story? Or can he get that support from the jungle? This is it, folks. Last chance at LOL eSports on Twitter. Hashtag UOL win or hashtag MSF win. Who do you think will take it? And we gave the draft edge to Unicorns of Love. But Misfits, what do they have to play to in order to pull this one out?
Well, I actually think that Kennen towards the end does save a lot for Misfits. I don't want to give it clear cut to Unicorns. I want to say, though, I think Unicorns of Love got the upper hand in the bottom lane with Caitlyn Braum, and that's where I wanted to see some different priorities and bans from Misfits. I think the solo laners, though, and the Gragas pick are good for Misfits Gaming here, and they can definitely still win the game through the solo laners.
Well, the draft is done, the comps are locked, the teams are on the Rift. Misfits on the red side for the first time this series. Unicorns of Love on the blue. The Love Hertz crew out loud and proud.
We also have to remember, Drakos here, looking at Braum. Braum is like the perfect pick against Xayah, because when she hits a Braum with shield up, well, there's no feathers falling behind you suddenly. She can't
stops right in front.
Yeah, she can't pull the feathers back and use that to lock, you know, down an AD carry or something. Like, Braum is so good against Xayah, and he's good against Blitzcrank.
And this is something that I find scary. I want you to look at PowerOfEvil, and I want you to look at those summoner spells. Ignite on Syndra, great. You've got kill pressure. I like that. You could interrupt the healing, also good. You're playing against an Elise right now in that mid lane. If a cocoon ever lands, you're dead. You have no options to get out of that play. So if Xerxe is as good on this champion as he has been with some other picks he's been able to bring out, it could be disastrous for that mid lane.
Yeah, so much can be decided by Xerxe in the early game. Top lane, if you get kills on Kennen, he starts falling behind in the 1v1 against Gnar. Vizicsacsi will have a great time. Mid lane, as you just highlighted, shut down Syndra, Vladimir outscales. Bot lane, you don't have to gank it if you're Xerxe, but at least be around so Samux and Hylissang feel confident they don't get all in by a Maxlore gank against this Blitzcrank Xayah combination. So there is a lot of lanes right now that can be super explosive, and because it's Xerxe's first game on Elise, we really have to look closely at his performance. He's getting the perfect start. He will take all the small raptors to get his level 2 as fast as possible. Then he will, of course, get the red buff with the great leash. He will go back and kill the small raptors, don't worry. And just leave the big raptor for last. And then you don't use your smite on the big raptor because you want to use that to rush over and get another camp.
And if he has taken a single experience Quint,
oh, he's actually just
he can take a scuttle crab.
Slows down his idea right now. The idea basically is, if you run with one experience Quint, and you get this pull here, small raptors, red buff, into then like a Rift Scuttler. Actually, you can then gank his level 3. He's gonna take his blue buff though, he still saved the smite, so it's okay. But he could have been even faster at showing up on top side
That is something you guys can try on solo queue. I highly recommend it. Super fun if you have people who are willing to pull that hard for you.
And I see, you know, bot lane still pull for the jungler very often, so that should definitely be a possibility. Communicate it with your team first, and then go for that top lane gank as fast as possible. Alphari right now, he is pushing forward, but he did put down an early ward. Maybe it's a mid lane gank.
Ooh, and Hansama using the clean cuts passive very well to lay down a little bit of poke. Exileh running forward is going to heal up off a creep, but PowerOfEvil is actually just destroying him in these trades. Now, Elise and Gragas both around the same area.
Yeah, and good things here from Misfits. Early ward from Alphari, early ward from PowerOfEvil as well to the top side. They are expecting this path here because they know the bot lane from Unicorns came late to lane. So they're like, okay, they leashed the red buff. He's going to go for this clear. They've seen it in scrims. They've seen it in the LCS, so it's not a surprise. That's why the early wards from the soul laners were on the top side, and why Maxlore just poked his head into the river as well to be like, is there an Elise in here? Yes, okay, good. We're going to prevent you from getting an early gank, and therefore no one dies already at 3 minutes.
And you can see because there's so much pressure on the top side, Power. Gonna get that back stop. That's gonna be inconvenient. But pressure on the top side means the bottom lane gets to play as aggressive as they want. That means Hansama and IgNar get the push, and now a little bit of vision in the jungle as well. So doing what they can to mitigate the impact of Elise early on.
Also with Unicorns coming late to the bottom lane due to the leash. Now IgNar is looking for a potential gank mid. Vladimir's pull is effective, but Exileh, he's just running straight forward.
Has to be careful. Ghost now being used. He will be able to heal, but may want to wait for the healing to go down. IgNar flashes up. Ignite is up. Flash forward. Flash out. Exileh going to make it to safety.
IgNar knows it's a trade. Flash for flash right there. Exileh will never get hit by the hook. That suddenly means now Misfits bottom lane can't play as aggressive due to IgNar being a very easy target for Braum passive into an Elise gank. Meanwhile, though, AD carries just kind of sitting and farming. No one obviously is going to kill each other right now.
No supports there. I mean, it's pretty hard to put pressure onto the Caitlyn with the range disadvantage. No threat of the hook means Caitlyn pretty free to just approach and poke down Xayah whenever possible.
Look at the early vision from IgNar as well. He just placed in the jungle. It's on the camps right here. One where we see Elise and one up here at the Raptor camp. So they know exactly where Xerxe is. They're trying to track the Elise. They know our jungler, the Gragas, will outscale the enemy jungler, so just don't die to early ganks. It's the famous last words of a coach before he leaves the stage. Heads up, guys, they have Elise, early vision, don't play too aggressive.
Maxlore taking a little bit of a risk as he moves forward here, but knows Exileh's not in the mid lane. Power's here.
They know exactly where Xerxe is.
Oh, little spider. Where are you going to go?
Oh, nice.
Oh, Maxlore just taking the camp.
Gets all the small ones, gets even the big one, steps out. Good invade here from Misfits, controlling Xerxe. And now there's no camps for Xerxe to take for a while, because he obviously went straight to blue buff after the Raptor camp. He will try and see if he can maybe do something top lane. He's not able to find any ganks yet.
Nope. Gnar, Chain CC starts to come forward. Hylissang could be in trouble, does use the Unbreakable, but Ignite has ticked down. Will be able to walk away. No heal used from Samux. Good patience on the ability there. Gonna have to play with a little more respect. Still all 4 sums available, and Hylissang slowly healing up. 2 stacks on targets as well.
We might get a big fight top lane. Yes, they're trading mid, but both junglers are waiting up here. One in the river, one up on top lane.
Jump, now stunned up. The chain CC comes forward. Vizicsacsi running for his life. First blood gonna drop for the Misfits. Spider goes up, comes down, and is going to walk away, but that's a nice start for the Misfits lineup.
Yeah, it's so huge for Misfits. They get a kill onto the Gragas. Didn't even have to use his flash. Xerxe on Elise, he's being tracked in his own jungle. He's not able to find early kills. Huge win here for Misfits in the top lane. Meanwhile, Exileh is trying to just get as much farm as possible. No ulti from PowerOfEvil. He gets it now, actually.
Trading. Ulti used from Exileh means he will get some healing back. Holding on. PowerOfEvil constantly threatening, but Exileh doing a much better job of surviving in the early laning phase. In this one,
yeah, whoever jumps in first of the top laners will just get tagged and basically bursted down so quickly. Had it been Alphari jumping forward and he got cocooned by the Elise, then maybe it would have been in Unicorn's favor. But as soon as the Gnar steps forward, not expecting the Gragas to be there, then Chachi is done.
And now the trading just gets harder. Gnar has the Phage, has the ability to heal up every time he turns Mega, but Cutlass is going to make it pretty difficult to win these trades. Maxlore and IgNar pushing in for a little bit more deep vision. Small lead in favor of Misfits. We'll have to see if that top lane continues to snowball in their favor or what the next move is going to be.
I love the early vision again. Whenever IgNar comes back to base, he returns. skipped the boots, just said, you know what, I need the Sightstone, I need vision over mobility. That is the choice IgNar has made right now to do exactly this. Light up the jungle, spot where Xerxe is on the map so he can't gank you. He's currently sitting down here on the bottom side. This one is not warded, but you can also then always say...
Infer.
Yeah, if you feel like, okay, he's not a red buff, he's not at the Raptor cam. Well, we know his Crux is alive, and we know his blue buff is alive. Okay, he's either top lane for blue buff, or he's down bot side for the Crux. And then you try and play safe around that.
Exileh continuing to struggle in these trades, but a lot of sustain. Going for early resistances, will be forced back. No TP to get him back to lane.
And now they see in Spider.
Moving forward, Infernal Drake is, in theory, on the table. Hylissang will be spotted out as well as Xerxe tries to get a little bit of control over his own jungle, but isn't going to spot out any of the vision laid down by the Misfits lineup. And I have to say, Misfits, maybe a questionable draft, but playing around the early game Elise incredibly well.
That is just a lot of credit to IgNar, Maxlore, for the setup in the jungle. This is really what we see from some of these professional teams in the early game. The way they can track the opponent and make sure they can't do anything early on can be quite beautiful to watch. Obviously means we get less kills in a game like this, but if you are Misfits, that's exactly what you're looking for right now, because you want to keep the Kennen scaling, and you want to, of course, make sure you get to mid-game with Syndra without her falling behind against the Vladimir. And then you have, again, a strong mid-game to play around with IgNar on Blitzcrank to create some picks.
It has to feel good for you, doesn't it, Deficio? Finally.
I love it.
Macro play. No more random murder across the board.
Oh, it's going to happen later, don't worry.
Oh, I'm not. One thing you can rely on the Unicorns of Love for is team fighting, no matter what happens. But of course, the Elise, a bit of a question mark in that department. Becomes sort of a cocoon bot later in the game.
They're sneaking in behind Elise. PowerOfEvil was checking if she was waiting there in the little brush. And Maxlore will find her.
So moving forward. Flash out from Xerxe, good respect. Losing the flash there is going to be pretty tough. Going to be much harder to force ganks. We're getting further and further away from the early game, and the Gragas going to be out of that difficult early phase.
And it's very hard for Unicorns to kind of set up Xerxe right now. Gnar doesn't have a control ward to maybe put that in the river and try and deny vision from Alphari to set up a potential gank. This is actually one of the first time Xayah gets to really push it out, and obviously the Gnar disappearing and all in.
Alphari getting aggressive the longer he stays in that storm, the more damage is going to do. Hyperprocs being used up, but that's a mini Gnar, that's a squishy Gnar, and that is a dead Gnar.
What
Alphari
is happening?
grabs it.
What is happening with Xayah today? He jumped in just when Gnar disappeared, and Alphari just kind of clicked ulti and started auto-attacking him.
To be fair, good play with the lightning rush. Exileh, hook, dodged. Body slam, not going to be used. Exileh, going to do a lot of damage. Body slam, knocked back, nope. Pulls it out. And Exileh is safe, as is Hylissang. Some good footwork comes in from Exileh. A lot of resources committed into the mid lane. Doesn't really cost Misfits anything yet, however.
Well, it's still very big for Misfits, the fact that Alphari is rushing towards the Blade of the Ruined King. Early kill and assist for him. He's again going to be very strong in the silent split push. Let's see what happens mid. PowerOfEvil, he really wants to use his ulti. Slow mana, IgNar doesn't land the hook, and everyone stays alive. And Exileh continues the farm. At least his attempt to pick up as much farm as possible.
Oh, Hylissang does get the flash out.
Xerxe was around. I like that play from Hylissang. Trying to force the flash from PowerOfEvil. Successful move. Now once Exileh goes back to get full HP, might try and all in. That doesn't work.
Pull forward. PowerOfEvil now completely out of mana. Ignite down. IgNar hooks. Does land on Hylissang. Hylissang under tower. Unbreakable. Buys him a bit of time and will save his life in the end. Meanwhile, Maxlore is on top side. Vizicsacsi continues to push forward. 2 stacks on the Mark of the Storm. 3. That's going to be the stun, but the Gnar is on the way in. He's just going to throw him backward. Good disengage for now. Where's the cast from Maxlore going to be? Is not available. Flash out from Vizicsacsi. Decent damage comes forward. Maxlore wants to start the dive. Is going to tank up the tower for his ally, his friend. Oh, yet another kill going down for Alphari.
Suddenly, this Kennen here will start taking over the game. He's going to get to that Blade of the Ruined King on next back. Xerxe is trying to get something on the other side of the map. It is a big one, Infernal Drake, for the team. But right now, if you are Unicorns, you really want to get more pressure on the bottom side with this Caitlyn here. See if you can get down that tower. But you need your jungler and mid lane around you, and Exileh on Vladimir. The problem when you pick Vladimir is he's kind of useless in the early game. He's not going to help your team. He's not going to roam. He's not really going to join for fights. He just wants to farm. And that means PowerOfEvil can actually leave, and that makes it harder for Unicorns to play aggressive in that bottom lane with the Caitlyn. And they have to just kind of respect the fact that the enemy mid laner will show up first and they have to play a bit more passive.
And we have the Kennen. We have what looks to be a ton of split pushing potential from Misfits, but how far ahead do they need to be that they can mitigate or deal with the potential team fight that comes in from the Vladimir and the Gnar as we get later into the game?
I mean, that's always the hard thing to say because even 5k gold down, a Vladimir-Gnar combination can win late game team fights. So I don't think there's an exact gold limit for Misfits. It's more about how well do they play with tempo in the game and the split pusher. If Kennen is always able to push down Vizicsacsi, Vizicsacsi should never be able to leave with Mega Gnar and surprise Misfits. Because they will always time his Mega Gnar and be like, careful guys, he can TP now, step away. Mega Gnar disappears, Chachi has 30 seconds where he can't do anything, and suddenly Misfits can control the next 30 seconds with this split push Kennen. And that's kind of the little dance we're gonna see in this game here. But you always gotta respect Gnar and Vladimir in these fights.
And we look at Misfits, they are a team that have struggled with split push strategies. Big question is, can they execute it as they move later in the game? Because one team that we're pretty sure knows how to team fight is the Unicorns of Love. So they have drafted to a win condition that they are experienced at, but definitely did not expect to fall this far behind in the early game.
It's kind of some of those problems just continuing from Rift Rivals and from before.
Forward.
Unicorns are, they're not able to get these clean early games where they're just farming. There's almost always something going wrong. In this case, it's Vizicsacsi dying 3 times in the early game, making it now harder to play. Luckily, Infernal Drake in favor of Unicorns is going to be big for later games. And Xerxe on the Elise, first time he plays it, as we highlighted before, was tracked in the early game, did not manage to land a whole lot of cocoons, but he succeed.
Vizicsacsi on the backside, knocking multiple members back into the Syndra. Not going to find the engage quite yet. PowerOfEvil has been locked up. Maxlore wants out to safety. That's going to be the kill over to Exileh. He's now running forward onto that Syndra. Unafraid. Tides of Blood comes out. But doesn't have the damage to finish it up. IgNar now on the way in as well, just to protect. It's going to be the hook pulled under tower. Pulls out. Ulti going to be interrupted. Hansama coming in. Featherstorm comes out. That's the kill for the Misfits. 80 carry and
I think he's pausing because he was knocked up in his pool. He got pulled back, and then he actually went into the pool very quickly, and the knock-up still connected from IgNar. That definitely looked wrong on the screen, but of course, the way the spells are queued together is always kind of odd then to call out which one is supposed to land first, but I can say almost 100% safe, or pretty safely, that is why he paused. Also with the animation of his hand doing like, that was a knock-up there.
Have to check it out. League officials will keep us updated as we move forward. Interesting. I wonder who that's better for. Because on the one hand, if the knockup was supposed to hit you and you get to pool anyway, that's great. On the other hand, if the knockup wasn't supposed to hit you and the pool was supposed to go out first, that's terrible.
Yeah, because then you just get knocked up in the air instead of pulling away. Yeah. Which of course is the big thing here for him. Might even be able to replay it if that is in fact why they're pausing here. So then we can actually just see it once more.
And League officials are investigating as we speak, and it is with regards to him getting knocked up in the Vladimir pool. That's one of my favorite things I've ever said on there.
Getting knocked up. Sure. Out of context.
All right. Well, we are going to replay the whole fight for you guys. We'll take another look at it one more time through it.
Yeah. So right now, we see there's a 3v3 in the mid lane. None of the top laners are looking to join early. The AD carries are not even here. Good pick on to IgNar. And then you see PowerOfEvil is not able to join early. Flash away from Hylissang as well. So that's why Unicorns can win the fight. And then we get that play right after. Exileh running in.
Good.
Feels confident. He feels confident because he has the pool ready. So he gets stunned. Hook in. And then look here. He pulls. And he still gets knocked up. Which simply means he doesn't get far enough away from the enemy team.
Yeah. And that's pretty close. You can see the Featherstorm just barely clipping him. We'll wait to see what League officials have to say about that in regards to the issue, but it does look skeptical. Definitely looks pause-worthy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, normally you are not able to get targeted by anything.
And I was curious. I thought maybe the timing on the instantly did the knock-up afterwards, but it does look like there was a split second that did allow him to pool and then getting knocked up. That's odd circumstances.
This game, though, again, as we mentioned before here, if we just take a massive step back during this pause and talk about Unicorns of Love specifically, one of the big things we wanted to see after multiple weeks of LCS and then Rift Rivals was that, you know, focus on the early game. It doesn't have to be a more aggressive early game. It doesn't have to be like, you know, better laning phase specifically. It's simple things like be more patient, focus a bit more on vision. Don't opt into some of these risky plays if you don't have to, if you're running scaling with your composition, because that is just not where you are strong as a team. And I think this series have kind of shown that they are not, at least in the first week back after Rift Rivals, kind of able to iron out some of these issues. We see a lot of the same problems in this series that we saw at Rift Rivals and before.
We definitely do. It feels in many ways identical. You see Exileh continuously playing forward. Now, it goes pretty well for him. He only dies once, and definitely, I think, a worthwhile trade in this circumstance. We'll see even if, you know, what ends up being the ruling from league officials with regards to the issue. And I think the thing that surprises, that I like at least, from the side of Unicorns of Love is that they're trying this Elise. Now, it didn't really feel like it worked out in this early game, but I like that they're pushing their team to try new things. That's pretty much what we asked of them as a region. We're like, hey, you've got some weaknesses. Clearly, they need to be solved. Work on it. And they are working on it. And
if you are Unicorns of Love, you know, Elise might be one of the answers to your weak early game, because she, of course, offers one of the best early games as a jungler. So maybe they're trying to change up the picks to then say, okay, now we can actually bring a jungler that can gank a lot early on. So maybe this will make it easier to not fall that far behind. Obviously, again, in this game, the tracking from Misfits was spot on, which is why Xerxe didn't get to do a whole lot. But you can then see them try some of these different things while still running a lot of scaling with Vladimir and Caitlyn.
Yeah, I really like the draft from UOL. Now, Misfits on the other side, I was skeptical. It looks like their execution in game has been great. I like to see strong early game execution, and now that doesn't mean a ton of kills outside of the top side if you've been watching, but the amount of vision placed in the early game is great. And this is exactly a similar thing that we want to see from Unicorns of Love, right? Is that same priority and vision, but you can see in this game specifically how when you can see everywhere Elise is going to go, she doesn't do anything, right? She doesn't, she's not, I mean, she has a cocoon, she has a flash, and when you know exactly where she's going to be, she has to be willing to burn both to even get close to ganking a lane. So Misfits definitely still playing well in the early game, which is what we wanted to see from them. However, we do still need to see, I think both teams, interestingly enough, kind of clean it up in the mid to late game if game 2 was any indicator.
Yeah, that's always the thing we're looking at for a lot of teams here. I feel we kind of still missing that one team right now that we can confidently say, okay, these guys, they play clean, you know? They can get an early advantage, they can close out the game without any problems. We can't really say that about anyone at the moment. H2K maybe being a front runner. I'm obviously just talking about week 6 here specifically, where HK did get a big lead against Rocket and just kind of ran over them very quickly, but that was also due to Rocket playing, you know, very poorly yesterday. In a series like this, it is harder because you are against its top teams playing each other, so it's not easy to just finish the game. But we definitely saw in the last one that both teams won and lost the game multiple times in the same game, which is, of course, never supposed to happen.
So it's interesting, really, when we look at it too, because I think when you look at like a team's having a week off, what a lot of people don't understand is that how much time 2 weeks of prep actually is and how different a team can look from week to week, right? And Unicorns of Love, they didn't have that same 2 weeks to reset. They came into Rift Rivals, they had to play a ton of games, and now they have made some changes, and that's good to see. But Misfits have had the opportunity to make a ton of changes, and while we have seen some improvements, we still see some of the same weaknesses showing up, and I think that's something that we're going to see across all EU teams, right? Because they might have different ideas of what they need to work on compared to what we see when we look back on those VODs.
I think a lot of teams need to actually figure out how do they effectively improve on some of their weaknesses, because one thing is just scrimming and scrimming and scrimming and not really improving on anything. Well then, yeah, you're scrimming and you're doing okay, but you're not getting much better. And that's always a big question for me with a lot of Western teams is, when do they identify what is our main weakness? And when do they identify how do we fix it? A lot of times they will know the weakness, but they will not know how to fix the weakness. So they will just have the same problem and they will try and like band-aid it during the split, being like, okay, I guess if we just pick more early game champs, our early game is not as weak, but then they will still make some issues or maybe make some mistakes in game and have some issues. And that's the kind of thing we see so often, because it is very difficult to obviously fix these issues.
Definitely true. Well, as an update on the game, League officials have determined that this is a known interaction. League officials are speaking with the teams now. You can see one of our refs going on stage, and they will play through. And apparently the bug has to do with input buffering. That's the only thing I can confirm outside of that. But as it is a known interaction, they have spoken to the teams. The teams have decided to play through. So continue forward. You can see ref now talking to Exileh. Exileh being given the context. Bittersweet smile on his face. And we're going to continue.
We'll continue then. IgNar secured that kill for his team. Exileh will be ready to get back into this game here. Vladimir got that first kill though, which is big for him, but obviously did not want to die the second engage.
And essentially, for a little bit more context, as I have been given it, it's essentially an ability was cast before the period of invulnerability from the pool. Apparently very tiny window. So.
Never seen it before, at least.
Nope. Maybe doesn't usually happen when you're not on, 3 ping, 2 ping, 0 ping. 0 ping? I think it's 0 ping.
7 ping.
7 ping.
Don't think it's 0
Wait,
ping.
I thought it doesn't go any. I thought the indicator in the game doesn't go any lower than 7. I thought that's why it said 7 ping.
Really?
I don't know for sure.
I had no idea.
Well, luckily we don't have to talk about it because we are ready to get back into game. We are moments away. Teams look to be getting ready. You can see both mid laners focus on their face. The second pause of the series. Can they handle it? Can they stay focused? Well, we're going to find out. Unicorns of Love versus Misfits, Game 3. Misfits have been shutting down the top side of the map. Exileh doing pretty well for himself in the mid lane, but we just witnessed a fight where he did get taken out. Thank you, audience, for sticking with us. Couple of pauses today, but teams staying strong, spirits high. They know that it all comes down to this, and they cannot get stuck. Thinking about what just happened, have to focus on what is right in front of them. Alphari level 11 on the top side. Hasn't actually had a major CS advantage. I think we do, despite the over-aggressive moments for Vizicsacsi, have to give him a little bit of props for at least keeping up.
Xerxe is on the way, but so is Summer, who actually came from base. Everyone just kind of reset after the pause, but now they're picking their lanes. Summer and IgNar on top side. Chachi.
Step on the wall up. Alphari gonna, ooh, double stun and makes it out. Very low though. Has to respect the potential for an engage here. Going aggressive, Sama could be in trouble. May not have the ultimate after that play in the mid lane. Still gonna get one. Now IgNar's on the backside out of nowhere. Can't buffer that one. Now pulled back, tries to predict the hook. Still gonna be Xerxe going down. That is the double kill. And in the end, Misfits are gonna walk away unscathed in the tower play.
And that actually started with Unicorns of Love looking for a gank top lane. They didn't know where the dual lane was from Misfits. It was a bit like in game 1 where they went aggressive despite not knowing, would IgNar be there, would Hansama be there? Like, you gotta respect some of these lane swaps that they're doing on their own. They also set up these plays. Yet they went all in on Alphari. Cocoon missed. Misfits just turned it around. Nicely executed dive here with IgNar. And suddenly that's 2 more kills for Misfits. A Rift Herald for Misfits as well.
Now pressuring in on the bottom side. Unicorns of Love, they may get a tower in exchange for the play that will help even up the gold, because Misfits, as much as they got on the top side, as clean as the tower dive was, still too many low health bars to continue pushing forward. Now, moving up to the 17-minute mark, 6 kills in the favor of Misfits. Rift Herald backing them up as well.
Alphari right now, who wished it was the old Rift Herald.
Wants that isolation.
He wants to just dominate with
that 5%
right now.
damage reduction and the pseudo-static shiv.
Yeah, 20-minute buff, man. Rest in peace. We might never get a 20-minute buff again.
I would, yeah, I think that sounds good to me. We
Really?
could also have people, they wouldn't have taken the Rift Herald if it was the old Rift Herald, to be fair. PowerOfEvil now moving forward.
At this point here, at this point, Exileh can really start playing aggressive right now. We're getting a fight.
Hylissang actually gonna get interrupted there. Couldn't quite pull him over the wall. Looks like there wasn't enough space.
Oh, was there like a snare from Hansama landing at the same time?
Probably. CC chain means he's not gonna make it over. And Unicorns of Love are actually gonna walk away with the kill on Maxlore. Now it's pressure in their favor in the mid lane. Meanwhile, Alphari pushes in on the top, but he doesn't have much of a creep wave here. Other one's still too far away. Unicorns of Love may walk away from this play with the advantage.
And remember, Unicorns got that bot lane tower while Misfits got kills top lane. Kennen will get that top lane tower, so they're trying to trade here, but again, with Unicorns getting some objectives down, they are staying fairly close in gold.
Alphari gonna keep the team in the lead, but just barely. Small difference between the two, and the Infernal Drake will be more of a boon for the Unicorns of Love as we move later and later.
Let's see it again right here. So Hylissang gets engaged on.
Nope. There's not enough room.
I guess.
He's physically as close to the wall as humanly possible. There is not enough room for another champion there.
And then Maxlore ends up dying, and mid lane tower goes down here in favor of Unicorns of Love. Mountain Drake is alive. We are now blessed with some of the good ones. Meanwhile,
Ocean was so good that game. You're crazy.
Yeah, it was but like 3 Infernals, 3 Oceans.
No, don't get me wrong, but
Big one.
Do you remember those fights that PowerOfEvil left with like 400 health? That was 400 health of regen from an Ocean Drake.
Do you remember how with 3 Infernals he would just one-shot everyone and won the game, 1v9?
I mean, that didn't happen.
Remember.
That didn't happen.
I remember.
Okay. All right, fine. Now Exileh Actually looking a lot more confident as he moves forward. Pretty easy for him to clear this one out, especially with Xerxe backing him up with a smite.
I mean, Exileh is the man we're looking at to win this entire game for Unicorns of Love because his Vladimir teamfighting ability is fantastic. Like, positioning great, he knows when to go aggressive as well. He's sitting with 2 kills currently on his Vladimir, early magic penetration coming in, so he's in a great spot right now.
And when Unicorns of Love, they fall behind like this, Deficio, it's always balanced out by 2 other members stepping up. So if it's Vizicsacsi right now, that is the one that we look at, who is falling behind, who's giving up advantages in the early games. It is Samux and Exileh who have to carry this one home. And Exileh, he's farming up. He's 1.5 items in. He's happy to be a Caitlyn, getting closer and closer to 3 items. Misfits going to get a Mountain Drake back, but Samux just continues to pressure topside.
And it's really good for Unicorns of Love that so many towers are falling early. Yes, okay, some gold is going over to Misfits, but the fact that you get a lot of gold in Vladimir and Caitlyn's pockets, important, because we know Caitlyn's mid-game is not great. Speed up the game, trade a lot of objectives, and suddenly Caitlyn sits on 2 completed items before you know it, and then she's not that weak. Then suddenly she actually adds some value in a team fight. Same thing, of course, for Exileh. Right now, really wants to get that Leandries, and then suddenly you're looking at a PowerOfEvil and Hansama. They can't really kill Exileh fast enough, and he can kill them pretty damn quick.
Definitely the case, and honestly, the Gnar 0-4-0, not where you want to be, but has a Black Cleaver, is doing fine on the top side of the map, and interestingly enough, we wondered what would be the replacement for Runan's Hurricane on the Kennen top, and it looks like Alphari has made a decision.
See, I saw this build from Marin when he played the AD carry Kennen here this week in LCK. Talk about it after, because Exileh, he might die.
Locked up, decent damage down, PowerOfEvil. Debating whether or not he can move forward. Does not have a ton of mana in the kit, but can fight for this blue buff. Vizicsacsi trying to pull it out. Maxlore is there to steal it, but if they can force the Gragas to take it, they'll be in a happy coincidence. Vizicsacsi getting knocked forward, trying to make his way out of the fight, throwing the blue buff onto him. Hey, you want it, you can have it. Samux will grab it. But they're going to get the kill in the end, and now Unicorns of Love are pushing in to take control of the jungle. IgNar.
But right now, Hansama is still pushing the top lane, so if Unicorns do not send anyone back to defend, he's just going to get that tower. Actually, just okay. I think he saw still 4 members around, but he's playing it very safe.
Backing off.
He sees all the 4 members, yeah. I guess he valued a Grump over getting some damage on this tower.
Game 1 all over. All the kindred marks on that Grump.
He steps away though, so he plays it very safe, didn't get a lot of damage on it, but this build here from Alphari, so it should end up being Static Shift coming in as well, and you just combine the Rapid Fire Cannon with Static Shift, as we see on AD carries so often. The thing I don't like about the build, if he goes fully towards the Marin route, is that you don't have Infinity Edge. And one of the big things about their double Zeal item is that they work so well with Infinity Edge specifically, because they add so much crit and attack speed to your build. Blade of the Ruined King does not give you the same scaling, but obviously he's doing it just for split push for now. If it is Static Shift coming in as well, we'll add some more wave clear to this cannon to just perma push it. And the objective is literally just to spam auto attacks on Vizicsacsi when he's in front of him, force Chachi out, and then take the turret.
Oh, Hylissang in no man's land. Does get the ultimate down, hits 2. Samux and Xerxe are on the way. 3 stacks, not gonna find the 4th. Fortunately canceled the auto there, so could not get the stun out. Unicorns of Love gonna back out of the jungle.
Maxlore gets cocooned right now. Xerxe steps away. Did manage to get 2 assists in this one, but no early kills from him on this Elise. And now, of course, his value does go down in these fights. It's a lot about just landing 1 cocoon into a bit of burst damage on 1 target. But obviously, that's where Samux and Exileh steps up and starts taking over. Misfits around the mid lane. Let's see a classic fight around the mid lane, boys.
Vizicsacsi moving forward. PowerOfEvil could be the one in trouble, but Hylissang pulled back to the team. Exileh on the way in, looking for the team fight. Alphari now running for his life. Exileh hungry for a little bit more. Pools up, Tides of Blood comes out. Maxlore on the menu. Now pulling back. PowerOfEvil trying to flash to safety. Samux, ace in the hole, snipes him down.
And I know Kelsey Moses already retweeting her old tweet about never just walking mid lane against the Unicorns of Love, because then these kind of fights will happen. The Kennen, he wants to sit in the side lane. He does not want to sit with his team. He's not good there. He's not going to add anything to these team fights. Misfits, they just got surprised and they lost the fight, and Haley just died to Baron. I mean, it's this series.
Xayah pulled over the wall. Hansama. Eyes on the Baron. Impossible to steal in theory, Hansama. Not gonna get it. Unicorns of Love get the Baron after a bloody exchange. No way to describe it other than that, and now they're just backing off with a massive advantage in their pocket.
Big win here for Unicorns of Love, except for the support. No Baron buff for you. So look at this here. Misfits are actually not going to accomplish anything by sitting mid right now, and they just allow Unicorns to find this team fight here. Great engage from Unicorns. Great play from Exileh on this. Vladimir, we just talked about him taking over the game, knowing exactly what to do in these fights here. Actually, the small spiders got enough damage on PowerOfEvil that he died from Caitlyn's ulti as well. But a big win for Unicorns. Even in gold still. IgNar will have a Blasco.
Map resets. Unicorns of Love now with the Baron buff, ready to back them up as they pressure in, look for a little bit more. Misfits doing what they can to hold on to the tower, but the Kennen, not really the wave clear option the team needs. Luckily, they have the Syndra, may be able to mitigate at least one wave of pressure.
Yeah, another problem about the Kennen is when his team is falling behind, he's not able to sit in the side lane and split push, then he's forced to team fight. And then again, he loses his value compared to a Gnar. A good Mega Gnar is one of the best things ever in a team fight. Massive potential.
I think probably is the best thing ever.
I mean,
combined with the wall-up, I think it's the most CC in a single kit that can be chained together.
Yeah, that is actually a valid point.
Maybe Scion Alt and Scion Q together, but that's about it.
But that's 2 abilities, right? So let's
well,
just say
I'm including the wall-up.
Fair.
The Mega Gnar W there.
If you do land the massive stun, though, you might win the entire game for your team. That's always one of the big things about Gnar. And Xerxe right now and the rest of Unicorns of Love, they know there's no split push threat.
Pulling up with the wall, that's all he wants to do! Chain CC comes in, where's the Vladimir though? Can the team get this going? Vizicsacsi trying to run for his life. He will get shielded up, he will make it out, but Samux is in trouble. PowerOfEvil takes a moment to consider before he goes any deeper. Now Exileh is moving forward, QSS comes out, Hansama trying to survive, Featherstorm comes out, the shutdown in. Exileh, no chance to escape, but Unicorns of Love, they're on the tower. Inhibitor is in their sights, Vizicsacsi backs off and just comes right back to the fight. Maxlore now running for his life, third proc on Hyper means Vizicsacsi can chase down anyone he wants, but PowerOfEvil may have enough damage to block this out. No, Hylissang not going to let it happen. Samux going to grab a kill. Unicorns of Love are going off. Alphari doing what he can, but the Caitlyn is too strong.
They're going for more right now to get another kill on IgNar. They will get this inhib at least. They're actually looking for the turrets.
Samux moving forward. They have the Baron buff backing them up. They can get one more tower. We look at the death timers, 13 seconds for Hansama. He's the quickest one to respawn. Unfortunately, the cannon creep being so far away makes
they will just
difficult.
take one. They just take one tower to take another one team fight. Look how aggressive they are playing. You give them a small little opening. Exileh is in your face. He doesn't care about the turret.
He hooked a Mega Gnar.
That was the start of it.
Big opening.
That's the start of it. So obviously not the guy you want to hook, but then after here, the fight could have been over, right? They could have disengaged, but then you see right now, Exileh is like, no, you know what? This fight is not over at all. He dives in onto Hansama. Hansama with no flash, no ulti on this Xayah here. So Exileh knows he can kill him. That's the small opening right there. An AD carry with no cooldowns after the first fight is over, and then you suddenly see Exileh get another kill and turret secured, of course, for Unicorns.
And just huge damage numbers from both Vizicsacsi, Exileh, Samux, but Hylissang. Clutch unbreakables twice in that fight. Once to block the Featherstorm from Hansama, making sure only one ally got snared. The second one to make sure that PowerOfEvil could not kill a single member of the Unicorns. Of course, Vizicsacsi then dived and a lot of other people died, but good performance. Now the pick coming in. Braum, unbreakable. PowerOfEvil, bye-bye.
Breakable.
IgNar running for his life. That's a mini Gnar. Trying to find the disengage, but Vizicsacsi is 0, 6, and 5, and I don't think that Blitzcrank has ever been more terrified of a Gnar in his life.
Yeah, that ulti before was probably the most useful thing we'll ever see from a top laner who is 0, 6. That actually, because of the hook from IgNar, was fantastic for Unicorns of Love to start the whole fight, but you're seeing a fat Kennen on one side, a 0, 6 Gnar on the other side. But because now the rest of Unicorns have been winning, and they are now grouping as a team, the 0, 6 Gnar is more useful than the 4, 1, 5 Kennen.
And we're starting to see why Kennen has not been the biggest top lane pick. Wait, he's doing it again! Can they stun him before he goes into mini Gnar? He's not going to get anybody. Finally!
Cast the curse. I love it.
If it does not work the first time, try again. There is the Featherstorm. Exileh locked up for a brief moment. We'll have the Blood Rush charging. Now he's going to try to pull. Not going to get the chance. Misfits getting a couple kills back, stopping Unicorns of Love for pushing for anything more.
Classic.
Right when we think someone's going to win the game, someone turns it back. Right when we think IgNar's not going to die, he dies.
Yeah, Samux right now is sitting on, you know, the double Zeal, Infinity Edge, and another BF sword. So we talk about Exileh a lot in these fights. Samux is extremely fit at this point as well. And the enemy Xayah, Hex Stringer to try and stay alive against the all-in. And remember, there's a Braum on the other side. So as we said in the Champ Select, when Hansama is trying to actually get these feathers on the ground, Braum stands right in front of him with the shield in his face and just says, nope, none of these feathers are going to appear behind us. And Xayah's value really drops. This is obviously Xerxe getting hooked in, this time dying. Hylissang will stay alive, and Exileh doesn't have any way out after the chain CC lands, but it is very difficult for Misfits to win these late game fights. Their composition was built around mid game and split push with Kennen. That very quickly ended after we had some of these mid lane fights, and if you do that against a team fighting comp, you lose the game.
But now, it's a game of bushes, Deficio. Waiting, hiding, IgNar, hoping desperately that the next rocket grab he throws out does not hit a Gnar or a Vladimir, and thus they can chain the CC together and kill him. Really the only target he wants to hit at this point feels like it's Caitlyn or Xerxe.
Getting at least the Exileh, so he maybe early pools, might not be too bad, but obviously there's also the risk you just put in.
If you don't kill him immediately,
yeah.
he ults, starts the charge on Tides of Blood, and then pools, everybody dies. So you're right, it is possible, but does still feel not great. Hook, Exileh, what to see. Pool does come out, Blast Cone.
Somewhere around Exileh just instantly pulls, doesn't want any shenanigans with some weird knock-ups happening once again.
Smashes W.
Yeah, he just literally spams and be like, I clicked it first.
Well, now Unicorns of Love are definitely in the dominant position. 6 seconds left of that Baron spawns. Maxlore in trouble. IgNar trying to catch the jungler out, but UOL just poised to take this Baron, and it's going to be almost impossible for Misfits to do anything about it.
Great setup from Unicorns of Love here with the control wards. They need a few more over here to just actually spot IgNar and Maxlore show up. Maybe turn it around. They do have one spotting IgNar now. Xerxe with Gnar soon.
Bye-bye. Goes over the wall. Gnar ready. Vizicsacsi flash as well. Keep your eyes on Hylissang, apparently. Alphari running in, trying to get the kill, trying to make this one out. Is going to be in trouble. Will get a kill onto the support, but trades his life. That's the worst deal in the history of deals ever.
Right there, if Xerxe maybe had some more vision on Misfits, could have timed that flash over the wall with his Gnar, but he had to kind of walk around at first.
And when your 625 Kennen is barely solo killing a Braum, you might be losing the game.
At least he's bringing some crit to the table and some attack speed with the double Zeal, so Alphari does have enough damage to kill Hylissang, but just takes a while. There's a heal in there as well. A few crits landing from Alphari, he does secure the kill. But yeah, now you lost top lane and they're still dead right now. One guy's up in 2 seconds, the other guy in 15.
Baron hooked. Very frustrated about that. Xerxe going to take a little bit extra damage. Resets aggro. A little leap into the air. And now UOL still ready to take the Baron. Still have to respect the steal from Maxlore. Remember, in game 1, that was the clutch moment for the Misfits lineup. And Deficio, we're at the point in the game where I feel like Unicorns of Love, in the driver's seat, can close out. They have the team fighting advantage.
Yep.
But I don't believe 100% that it's going to happen.
Whenever I see Gragas and things like Blitzcrank, I never just kind of rule the game over. I'm always like, yes, you should win, but there's a chance that a great engage happens from Maxlore, or a hook like this one hits from IgNar, and then suddenly you get a kill onto a jungler, that's a Baron for Misfits, and boom, game wide open. So by drafting these engage tools, you always have comeback mechanics, and that's what I like about things like Gragas. That's what I like about things like Blitzcrank as well, is if you are in this very close game where, yes, you might get outscaled, but you're still in the game, at least for a while, you have these chances to actually get back in the game. You see now Misfits starting the Baron straight away. Xerxe sitting with Gnar, wants to TP in.
Is ready with the TP. Where's it going to come?
That call was basically just to force TP from Xerxe. So now they know it's on cooldown. Kennen can go split push once again and actually apply pressure in the side lane. But you can see Unicorns looking for a fight.
Oh, Hylissang. Where's the ultimate? Can he get a disengage out? It doesn't look like there's going to be an option. Hylissang has been picked off. UOL, do they still want the fight? Exileh, Samux, Vizicsacsi moving forward, waiting on that Gnar. Vizicsacsi running in, has it available, but no flash. Means it's going to be difficult. Wallop comes up, but the slicing Maelstrom will stun him back in return. He has been pulled back. Samux is going to take him out. That's the 1-for-1 exchange.
Exileh hoping to force some flashes right there. IgNar might look for a pick onto Xerxe, won't get it. Look at that, Unicorns a lot, 4v5. Decided to just keep chasing, and they catch out Alphari right there. Misfits split up very quickly, and let's see what more they can get. They're still hiding in the jungle.
UOL keep trading their support for the top laner on the side of Misfits. Continues to be a good deal for them. Does mean that they have control over the Baron Pit area, now waiting and baiting in that brush. Onsama and PowerOfEvil, the two remaining sources of damage. Gnar on the way in.
Didn't find anything. They know Baron is not started. Now they actually still don't really know if it started or not, but they should have at least an idea.
Just too much damage. It's Maxlore. Gnar on the way in.
Don't let him
Body
do
slam.
it.
He has flash. Not going to get it in the end. That's the Baron for the Unicorns of Love. Now thrown back to the team. Exileh's in the middle of everything, and they are deleting the Misfits. But Onsama remains untouched. The Unbreakable buys a bit of time, but massive advantage to the Unicorns of Love. And Alphari doesn't even want to push for anything else.
So that's Baron now for Unicorns. I like the play here from Vizicsacsi. Staying outside, keeping Maxlore busy. No chance of a 50-50. Unicorns of Love in this late game have actually been looking quite good. Been able to set up Baron multiple times. Made sure Misfits did not get a lot of chances back in the game other than that one lost team fight.
And now UOL, the early game weaknesses may still be there, but so is the late game team fighting strength, and they built a composition to back it up. Misfits had the early advantage. They had the split pushing composition, but they could not find their win condition in the end. Now Vizicsacsi running forward. This could be the final fight. Now moving in as well. Locked up, shut down. Goodbye, PowerOfEvil. Unicorns of Love are now looking to break that inhibitor, and they may take the base in the end, but the health bars are low. Will they take the fight?
Chachi's Mega Gnar is ready now. He didn't have it before when he engaged. He just wanted to start a fight onto the no-flash Syndra. Gets hooked in.
Pull back, silenced, locked up for a brief moment. Ult is not going to connect. Alphari on the side looking for a little bit of damage. Slicing Maelstrom and the flash available, but will just get deleted if he runs into that team.
Unicorns playing it slow right now. Don't want to risk anything. They have two inhibs down. They know the top lane tower is next. Xerxe already back in base. And once again, when you have the better late game, you don't need to risk any rushes on that Nexus. So good call from the Unicorns. Xerxe here saying, no more 50-50s in Europe. Keep that jungler away. Baron gets secured by Unicorns. And then they can also win the fight right after.
Throws him back. Makes it look easy. In Exile, Onsama so close to killing him, but an Unbreakable paired with the Sanguine Pool just... It's so difficult to kill the threats on the side of Unicorns of Love. Caitlyn with such long range, Vladimir with the Pool and the Braum to back him up, and Onsama, yeah, 3-1-3 is a nice scoreline, but it just feels like he hasn't been nearly as effective as in these team fights as he needs to be for the team to pull out on top.
Again, I think it's just so hard against Braum as well for him, and I think it's also hard for Alphari to do a whole lot because he's playing a pure split push champion, and his team is behind. So some of these guys have just not been able to perform, you know, at the highest level in the late game due to Unicorns draft and what Unicorns have been doing here in the mid to late game, and it's kind of stopped Misfits from doing a whole lot. They're still kind of relying on IgNar to land that crazy hook.
Not that one. Don't want to pull Vizicsacsi in. Nice stun for PowerOfEvil. But a poke, Samux caught out. Unbreakable comes in and interrupts the fight. Vizicsacsi goes in. The Feather Collar not going to be enough. Now looking for a little bit more. Alphari and the stun of the team. They're peeling back. Alphari and the rest of the team have grouped up. The stun is not going to connect. They may have gotten the inhibitor tower, but they are set to lose the fight. Samux alive and well. Misfits hungry for blood.
Oh, he gets
flash. The hook. Goodbye, Caitlyn. No. Samux still alive, holding on as long as he can, but the shutdown coming in for Misfits, and they barely hold on to life.
Yeah, once again, when we praise the Unicorns of Love, then suddenly Misfits win the fight.
Oh, no.
In the end, worth it for the Unicorns because they got that top lane tower. They got a Nexus turret as well. PowerOfEvil, he wants to really kill Xerxe. Not happening.
Sad state of affairs, Deficio. Misfits finally find a team fight in their favor, but at what cost?
Yeah, so you can see Samux getting knocked back by a great ulti from Maxlore, and then all of Unicorns just diving in to try to take down. But notice how Exileh, he gets stunned and actually can't get to use his pool. He dies very quickly. No heal or health coming back from his ulti. And that means Misfits can actually win the fight. Nice flash hook from IgNar as well. Onto Samux right there. Meanwhile, in the bottom of your screen, you can see how Unicorns just took down a Mountain Drake. Not like there's a lot of structures left to kill.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's just the icing on the cake. Interesting, 2k damage does come from the Elise in that fight, so well played by Xerxe, not something we normally see. Does have an entirely AP build, though, so I take it back. Not that special.
He's the team fighting Elise. Early ganking, not needed. Not needed.
No. You kill one person every team fight.
That's your job right now if you are Xerxe. Elise is landing Cocoon, so Exileh and Samux can kill that one guy. Full build, obviously, for the Caitlyn. Almost full build for the Vladimir. And right now, Unicorns Aloft, they're looking at that Nexus right in front of them. They know the inhibs will respawn soon. They know the top lane inhib is open. It almost feels like you cannot make a wrong call at this point. No matter which lane you go to, you should be able to get something that is good for your team.
Definitely the case. The poke as well. The hook doesn't connect, and that's a wide open invitation for the Unicorns of Love to take that top lane inhibitor. And there's not a lot left to say. Unicorns of Love, no structures left in front of them. They're just waiting for double super minions in every lane. They're just waiting to walk it down, but they may go aggressive for the fight here. Nice disengage comes in. Vizicsacsi takes a little bit of poke. Exileh on the front lines, flash forward.
Ooh.
Does get the ultimate. Hansama bringing out the Featherstorm. There's no Braum to block it up, so Exileh is going to have to go golden, but meanwhile, Samux just going to throw down the auto attacks. He can just hit the Nexus, but he doesn't care. He wants a few more kills to pad those stats. Unicorns of Love close it out just so cleanly. And man, Misfits, remember rule number 1, you don't fight them in that mid lane.
Yeah, game 1 and 2, very back and forth. Last game here, despite the early kills for the Kennen, it actually never felt like Misfits were really controlling the game. It was like they had all the setups, so ooh, now they're gonna start split pushing with the Kennen. It's gonna be great. They control the mid lane, but as soon as they walked mid lane, they actually just got engaged on by Exileh and Unicorns of Love, and they lost that fight, which led into a Baron, and suddenly Unicorns of Love just got super far ahead in the game. And we get to see in this game why Kennen AD carry or Kennen split push actually just kind of fell out of favor, because not only were the changes to him as a champion, but also just the
it's so hard to execute.
Yeah, it's so hard to execute him because he can only really bring one thing, which is split push. As soon as his team then starts falling behind, he's useless.
And it's a bit grim, if we're honest. Had a massive lead in the early game, chose to team fight for some reason. We wanted to see more split pushing, and these were sort of the issues in the mid to late game shot calling that we brought up with the Misfits. Maybe not the clearest calls, but Unicorns of Love, when they see someone come into that mid lane, they know there's only one call, especially with a composition like that, and that is fight. Works out for them yet again. And while we didn't see them improve on all of their weaknesses in this series, we did see them try a few new things with the Elise, and we did see them still pull it out pretty cleanly in that game 3, especially once they got that lead in that Baron. I love the way they closed it. You got to give them credit for that, because sometimes we see them take those big risks, but they just walked it down nice and slow.
Yeah, and we again also saw a lot of good picks actually go over to Unicorns of Love that we maybe didn't expect with the way the draft went. Like that Braum pick from Hylissang ended up being very crucial in shutting down someone like Hansama as well in these fights, obviously adding a bit more in terms of picking that one target you want to kill. So kind of weird still that it was actually left open with the Blitzcrank already locked in. But that's just some of the things you can always talk about after. Alphari did actually have a good game himself on this Kennen. 7 kills he picked up. He was obviously getting fed early on, but he never got to dominate it as that split pusher. And that's where the 0-7 Gnar ended up adding more to the team fights.
Then one man, we were surprised to see him get his hands on his Caitlyn, Samux. He's also our players of the series. No surprise that when you do get your hands on that Caitlyn, you put up an all-star performance, and across the game, there were a lot of misplays on the Unicorns of Love lineup, but Samux was one man who was relatively consistent for the team across the board. And of course, the Caitlyn performance in those final team fights was beautiful to watch. Of course, it's pretty easy when you have a Gnar and a Vladimir leaping forward, and if they focus you, they all die anyway. But you can see the team.
Oh, apparently touching his hair and face.
It's a ritual.
Oh, so whoever gets MVP on Unicorns of Love?
Well, first you touch Ramah's head for good luck, and then you touch the player of the series head, and then I think that's how the ritual goes. We'll have to confirm with Unicorns of Love afterwards. Yeah,
there's a lot of traditions for Unicorns of Love. I remember if you get MVP, you have to do the dishes, apparently. That happened to Xerxe last split, so that's one thing.
Samux, great job. I sincerely hope it wasn't like chili night or lasagna night. I hope it was like salad night, so you have an easy time.
I don't think they have salad night. These it's a gaming house.
That's true. The lasagna does look good, though.
They definitely do not have salad night. But also another thing Romar mentioned was there's apparently a KDA award in the Unicorn's house, and then each week someone gets it, whoever had the best KDA, and Samux probably secured it right the game before we didn't die, and then 8 kills in this one.
To be fair, 3-1-11 for Xerxe, we'll have to see.
Yeah, but I think the last game he was 6-0-5.
Not Vizicsacsi, unfortunately. We know that one for sure. Great team fight presence. Cannot take that away from you, friend, but did die a lot. Now, admittedly, killed a lot of people on the Fiora game.
Very true.
And set up a lot of great fights, but did not work out. Now, guys, we were waiting for Vizicsacsi to make his way up to the analyst desk. So we're buying you a little bit of time. A little bit of time to talk. And it looks like we are out of time to talk, right as I say that. Well, Unicorns of Love came out on top against Misfits Gaming. Let's head over to the analyst desk for more on that series.
Sorry, Verius had to go to the bathroom, which is why we were delayed. That is a lie.
Well, I'm still here.
That is a lie. We just had to take a minute to step back and well look at that series, because what happened in the end, the Unicorns of Love, they did have a comp that was really well suited to them, but I can't help but be frustrated about Misfits and their ability to kind of not being able to close out games where they have a sufficient lead. This is, of course, game 1.
I can't believe it. Let's not talk about game 1 and 2, but that game 3 was... I'm a player and I shouldn't. I'm part of a team that makes mistakes as well, but that game was just horrible. Like I'm just boiling with anger because you have a Kennen that has 5 kills at around 50 minutes in game, and then he doesn't push past river. He just groups to the team, and then they don't push past river. They just sit together as 5 mid, and then Vladimir just flashes in your whole team and kills your whole team, and then. I don't know. Various
way in. Is it because the Unicorns of Love are always mid and you just kind of feel as the enemy team that you have to go there? But when you have a split pressure that is that strong, surely you can divert the attention.
I think they just play too scared. Misfits typically have been a team that like to resort to the playbook. They say, this is the win conditions of our competition, this is what we need to do, so let's just play it safe. But coming into game 3, their confidence seemed to be a little shot, their communication was off point. Hansama was in top lane when their 5-0 Kennen was grouped up in mid, and you're like, you've got those the wrong way around. Like, I understand you want to play things safe, I understand you want to play things calculated, but that's not how you play this composition.
That's exactly what happened at Rift Rivals. That's the way NA just beat all the EU teams, because you send someone to pick up a side wave or just push out a side wave, and then you still pressure mid like you are the stronger team. And that's what happened. They just went 4v5 in the mid lane and acted like they're strong, and you all just called their bluff. And they just got 2 kills, 3 kills, and then they got the Nasher.
And it's really frustrating to watch, because when you're watching Unicorns of Love, you're hoping to see development from what they learned from Rift Rivals. And what we're seeing so far is inconsistencies with some of the individuals, Chachi making random plays and dying all over the map. You also have Hylissang randomly going for these engages without the proper follow-up from his team, and so far Unicorns of Love is still sticking to their playstyle, but Misfits isn't good enough to punish any of this, and you just have to, like, it's worrying when you have a week off. You're expected as a team like Misfits to have a good early game lead. You draft a bit of a weird composition in game 3, but overall you still get a really good lead. You play exactly the way in which you want, get that Kennen ahead, and you're like, perfect. Now they have the easiest way to close out this game, and then they just cannot act upon it. And Unicorns punish.
And unfortunately for Misfits, it's starting to turn into a bit of a trend, obviously. We now have a 4-game sample size where it happened, or, well, 3 games in which it exactly happened. Obviously, against you guys, they built up a lead, weren't able to close it out. Obviously, Super Odo was there, so who can fault them, obviously. Yeah. But I do think that is a mental aspect that they kind of need to work on going forward, especially with the fact that Maxlore was put in that lineup to make probably those decisions in those important moments. So, it's kind of frustrating also because you mentioned the Rift Rivals point, and both teams that we saw failing at Rift Rivals played today and outplayed their opponents and won. Now, I do want to shift the attention up to the first series, because G2 versus Splice, I think, was a bit of a different story, because game 1 of G2 versus Splice was closer in the end. And game 2, G2 was actually a very dominant team in that matchup and completely took the reins. So I do want to differentiate between kind of what we saw from the Unicorns of Love and what we saw from G2, because they took a while, but they're seeming to find their groove a bit more.
I think seeing what Perks was writing on Twitter, that they were just a little slow in game 1 of the day. They admitted themselves they could have been more proactive, they could have played around their vision a little bit better, and we saw that in their gameplay. There were a few opportunities where Splice came very close to challenging them back, but then in game 2, G2, they seemed to much better understand how to play with the early game leads. The way in which they played with a lot of those fights was impressive, and it was great to see Perks again on these mid lane assassins being able to make plays and actually be the big carry for his team.
Yeah, player of the series went to to Perkz as well. We heard him in the interview after the game where he thinks that he didn't necessarily think he was playing that bad or anyone was playing that bad, but because the team synergy was completely off, everyone looked bad. However, I want to urge us to be careful as well. And we've said for weeks and weeks that they're underperforming. We can't just put them on a pedestal now after one series win. However, it was a very strong one. But from the side of Splyce, odoamne is a happy man because Splyce is in your group, so obviously it's nice if they don't get any points. But what in the end do you think they should have done better? And just first off, they should have done more in a series like that with an underperforming G2 up until that point. So what do you think went wrong?
I think prior to this series, they were starting to play better and better. But I think in this series, in game 1, they had opportunities to punish G2 because G2 was doing the typical EU thing where you just send people to the side lane and then you still try to pressure mid. And Splyce could have punished that because I think they had Rakan and some plenty of engage in game 1 at least, and they didn't pull the trigger because they were hesitating. And the windows are pretty small. And NA teams just punished us really hard because as soon as they saw that, they knew that that was a mistake. So it was a lot easier for them to pull the trigger, while Splyce didn't really feel that comfortable pulling the trigger and punishing G2 in that game, but that's what they should have done.
Yeah, I also remember from that series in general that we did also see Splyce just going for some engages, but they didn't just have kind of the right timing in the team fights to pull them off to the right point, which is unfortunate for them, but very good for G2. And if we take a look at the standings, that is very good for G2 because they hop over to second place with Misfits losing.
And I want to highlight that even though we're being like hypercritical of a lot of these teams that we're seeing, it's only because
of Rift Rivals.
Exactly, and it's because of the performance of EU, and it's only been a week, right? We're not expecting them to make massive dramatic changes. And of the two teams that we saw today, at least we saw an essence of change from G2 in the sense that they were being proactive in the early game, that they're changing up their draft and their compositions, and they are playing differently. Unicorns, to me, still feel the same.
Yep.
But we are seeing new picks as well. Like the Elise came out today from Xerxe, not what we usually expect. This time around, Exileh was able to get through laning phase on a Vladimir without dying. Like,
why doesn't he just pick that every game? It works so well.
I mean, it can in team fights, but especially in the Syndra, it is a great pick. But it is still only 1 week later, and what I'm really excited for is how well H2K will do up against G2, and I'm wondering what you think about them going into your game next week.
I don't think they changed that much since Rift Rivals. They still kind of have this playstyle where until they get the lead, they will be really cautious. Because in game 1, we saw the first blood came at 18 minutes in or something like that.
Yep.
And we saw the difference in game 2. They got a lead like 4 or 5 minutes in game, and then they started snowballing because that's where they get their confidence from. Until they get that first kill or their small lead, that's when they will play cautious. And after that, they'll get their confidence back and start playing aggressive. So I think that's the key to punishing G2. If you manage to impose your rhythm of the game, that's, I think, the key to beating G2.
So Jankos can just die in the top lane whenever you're not looking. I mean, they get a kill.
I mean, for sure. I think if Jankos goes and, you know, just... He doesn't even need to get the kill next time. I think if she just runs it straight to the tower, then I think that's the key to G2 winning that series.
Well, we'll see what happens. That is next week, but tomorrow, 2 more series coming up for you guys. The Mysterious Monkeys, good chance for them to pick up their second win of the split. They're going up against Roccat, and Fnatic is up versus Vitality. So I'm quite excited to see the Mysterious Monkeys take to the stage. Roccat not been doing too well lately, and has been looking revitalized through Kikis and through Amazing.
They certainly have. I've heard some positive things about the team, that there's a lot of potential there. Eyes are on the mid laner as to whether or not he can perform, because right now he is a big crutch point that can be abused for Mysterious Monkeys, but going up against Roccat, I don't know if they're the kind of team to punish him.
And that second match of the day, Fnatic versus Vitality. Fnatic, that third and last team we're going to see bouncing back maybe from Rift Rivals up versus Vitality, but Vitality has been putting up some numbers. They won another series 2 days ago, so do you think that's going to be a close matchup, odoamne?
I think Vitality is looking better and better. Even in the screens we're playing, they're looking way better than what they showed weeks before, and even in LCS. I think it's going to be a closer series than people think. I think Vitality has a fairly decent chance of winning that series. So I'll actually give it to Vitality that series. I would think Vitality takes it 2-1.
There we go. We'll shout you out tomorrow if that does happen. But that will be it for us here tonight. Thank you so much for joining us, odoamne. Fantastic
Thank you for having me.
Analysis and banter on the day. And thank you guys very much for watching. We will be back tomorrow for the final day of Week 6. We'll see you then.
Cataclysm!